Day Trading Radio presents a Briguy trading production.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Briguy here on daytradingradio.com. Going to do a quick audio check in the beginning. Hopefully everyone can hear me fine. And I hope everyone's having a great night. So, today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at ThinkOrSwim a little bit. One of the tools that I found as a popular tool amongst the those that took the survey. And let me actually take a look and see if we had any new posts. We did. Okay, so we actually had another person add ThinkOrSwim to the list. So by far, amongst the different respondents that we got, we have a good number of you guys using ThinkOrSwim. So we're just going to take a look at a few things, a few tricks, as it were, with ThinkOrSwim, and hopefully not show you guys that are too basic and too easy for the things that you normally do. Maybe show you some things that you haven't noticed before. And I'm also like to encourage this to be an interactive show, so if you guys happen to see something that you'd like to either ask a question about or something you want to add to, take away from, you want to call into the show, all that stuff is good. Just feel free to chat me up in the room. So we've got the member chat room going here at daytradingradio.com. I'll ask you guys to use my name in the chat room, and that'll give me an audio tone that will alert me that you have a question or a comment. CC Trader, thank you for the shout out, and the rest of you guys there, Michael Freeman. I don't want to start another romper room session, so you guys know who you are, right? And as always, these videos are recorded by me, and I have to go through and simply edit out the music from it so it doesn't get blacklisted on the YouTuber's channel, and that way we can post it pretty much wherever we need to post it. But I've seen some questions in the surveys as well as from the chat room, and I just want to let you guys know that as much as RPM is our strong tech guru for everything we do here at daytradingradio.com, he does not have the ability to force me to record this and upload it to the site. So that's something I have to do on my end, and I'm certainly willing to do that. It just sometimes takes me a couple days. But you will find all of the past episodes in the member forum, and you can take a look at them all there, play them back, rewind them, mix them. You want to substitute your own music for the background, knock yourself out. And I've also got a couple of posts in the forum regarding some of the tools that you guys are using, and also for the different websites that you guys might use for news and information, and we're happy to bring that to the members as you guys bring those out. In fact, I wanted to start off the show, since we kind of were doing that the last couple shows. I thought maybe I would just bring out a couple of recent websites that I saw posted in the comment section. I don't have the name of the member who gave this as a suggestion, but I'll simply put it out there, and I'm going to post the link in the member room, and so you guys can take a look at that. And I'll bring this up onto the other screen, and we'll see what it's about. Okay? So, this is my first time taking a look at this. If you happen to be the member who who suggested this, then feel free to let me know. And thank you to you guys for the shout outs in the member room. I appreciate it. So this is the website on thestreet.com, and I don't know the relationship with this site and some of the folks I've seen on here. I know Jim Cramer is on here quite a bit. I don't know the whole history there, but this particular link, if you saw that in the room, takes you right to the dividend calendar. So this looks pretty good if you wanted to see which stocks were coming out with their dividends and what their rates were. And as long as you own the stock within a certain amount of time of those dates, then you're going to be able to benefit from those dividends. Let me see if I shrink this down. Sorry to the folks at the street for losing their advertisements, but I just want to make the font size a little bit bigger for you guys. And there was some news today, for example, that Microsoft had increased their dividend. I don't remember when that's effective, if that's effective this one coming up. Maybe we can move through these and see if Microsoft is on the list. Nope. I see it stops at MMT and then jumps over to PFLT. So again, if you're the member who posted this and you'd like to comment on it a little bit further, feel free to do. I'm just going to poke around in here. Looks like we can pick different dates. Today, of course, is the 18th. So let's say we looked at Friday, which is quadruple witching Friday, and we can see a handful that are given their dividends then, and we can make use of that. Okay, so I think that's pretty self-explanatory. A good resource. Just add that as a favorite, which I'm going to do myself, and we'll just refile that later on. So let's take a look at another site that a member had shared out. Let me just make sure I grab the right link, and I'll put that in the room first before I bring it up on the screen, and I'll make sure. Yeah, see, it didn't grab it. That's what I thought was going to happen. Let's try that again. My forms, my Google spreadsheet forms, sometimes do not seem to cooperate with my clipboard, but I will make it happen. All right. So this next site here, Estmize, I see here. Again, I'm just bringing them to you right from the members, or from anyone who's happened to see the link there and happened to share it with us. So let's take a look. We've got an open platform for financial estimates. It looks like a way to publish your financial estimates and compete with Wall Street. View individual estimates, and then there's ways to sign up. So, contribute your estimates for the next 8 quarters. This almost sounds like earnings whispers. Is that the gist I'm getting here? Again, I don't have the name of the member who suggested this, so I can't give you a lot of information on it. I could go ahead and sign into it and see what kind of information we get to once we're logged in. Let's try that. I'm going to log in on another screen, and let's see, sign up. Let's put our email, because we just don't have enough junk coming to our email. Alright, so here's new screen. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought. This seems to be a similar service to one we looked at another time, which was Earnings Whispers, and it gives you a way of putting in what you think are the earnings for those particular stocks, and then you can see how everyone else is given similar answers. I mean, obviously you see 22 estimates for Amazon, 33 for Facebook, 123 for Apple. So it's obviously not the professional estimates going here, but you can use this to get a sense for what other people are viewing a stock. And if you're looking at a stock in a technical way and seeing a setup for a long or a short, and you want to do some background research on the stock, then this is another source you can go to and see what the word is on the street, as it were. So that seems like a nice little feature. And I'm just going to make some notes so I can update our site later on with the information that we're sharing out today. Okay. Got a little poll going on in the member room. I saw that someone had asked Pip Ranger, asking whether the market is up or down tomorrow. So if you're in the member room and you'd like to share that a little bit, feel free to throw that in the room and see what the consensus is. And by the way, guys, I'm not trying to take over the conversation, so you guys feel free to talk about the market and some other things that are going on. I'm not trying to lock you guys out from a conversation. Okay, so I'm going to bring up another one, and I'm going to try to figure out. Yeah, we got a little space at the end of that one there, McCracken, so it's not letting me bring it up. But I will type it in here. Hopefully spell it right. And okay, I think I'm in the right spot. Now, McCracken is one of our resident Apple scalpers, a term that he likes, him and RJ. And I'm going to bring up a particular website that he's sharing. Let me just get it into the room and paste it in there. And then I'm going to bring it up on the screen. You guys can take a look at that. And I see a question on here about how do we talk. The way we can talk is if you use Skype, you can call me on my Skype ID, which I will put in the room. It's Mr. Enticon. It's an old Skype ID I put in a long time ago, and I'd have to delete it and create another one if I wanted to use something a little more applicable. So bear with me on that. But feel free, if you'd like to give me a call, you can either just go ahead and call right now, or you can just send me a quick little private message that you want to call in, and I'll make sure that we take a little break in the show. I believe I've got Skype running, and I'm just going to open that up briefly and see if I can move that to another screen. And you guys can probably got to send me a friend request before you can call in. So I'll have this open, and I'll look for your friend requests, and then we could take those calls. So anyway, you want to do that. If you don't have Skype and you want to have some input on the show, we can certainly figure out a way to do that. We can use the chat room for it, and I'll be happy to interact with you that way. So, McCracken, speaking of callers, if you wanted to call me in right now and talk about this website, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I can do my best to talk about it based on what you just told me. McCracken mentioned that this was from a trader that was in the room some time ago and had shared out this information. This looks like a basic WordPress blog, and it seems like his focus is on Apple, as he says up here at the top. So based upon that, as we mentioned last week, if you want to just focus on one stock, you can actually earn a living just on a stock like Apple. Now, it's not every day that it's going to have all kinds of activity, but I would have to say, historically speaking, it has certainly shown itself to be pretty active. So this is a blog that has some comments there. Looks like his most recent comments were posted yesterday, so I don't know if this is a daily post. Let's scroll down here. Here's one from the 16th and the 15th. So yeah, it looks like we get a post every day. And if you're a trader of Apple like McCrocken is, then you might find it useful to get yet another piece of insight from someone who's looking at a particular stock and see what he has to say. I'm also noticing his comments on some of the strike prices and comments regarding the leaps and covered calls. So just from a cursory view, it looks like he's getting pretty thorough with his commentary. Is that the sense you got as well, McCrocken? Okay. No worries. So those are just some of the sites that some of our members had mentioned. So just wanted to bring that out. And let me just minimize some of our screens here. And we'll take a look at our ThinkOrSwim platform and discuss some of the things here about the charting and the setups, etc., etc. Alright, like I said, if you're in the member room, and you can just either send me a private message, or you can also send me put my name in your comment, and it'll sound a tone for me to pay attention that someone has said something. I appreciate it. And if there's no other questions, we'll move on. Hopefully I don't have a large delay here, guys, with what I'm showing you on the screen and what I'm saying. That would really mess things up if I'm talking in the past, right? Alright. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some charting, some chart setup, and some studies and grid layouts with ThinkOrSwim. Now, many software programs out there will do the same thing, and so you can apply some of what you learn here to what you already know on your other software. So for example, I'm going to take the screen here for a second and try to bring it on here so you can see what I'm talking about. Now in ThinkOrSwim, if you don't have ThinkOrSwim and you're curious what it's about, here is the main screen for ThinkOrSwim, and there is a home section here and an arrow. The home section brings up a summary page with some news and some commentary and some links to the chat rooms. There are rooms within ThinkOrSwim that have lessons given at the end of the day, for example. So it's a good resource if you're trying to get up to speed on how to use the platform, or just different kinds of trading tips and tricks. And if I expand this here, besides giving me my account info, it's also on the left side here. It's a place where I can have my watch lists, and I can also have news. I can put the CNBC news on here, etc., etc. For the most part, I have this contracted. And then the rest of ThinkOrSwim is divided up in these tabs. So you have the monitor tab, which is basically my portfolio. The trade tab, which is a place where you can see the all products, which is generally speaking the options chains. There's also Forex, futures, pairs, and then an active trader program, which is similar to the DOM that you have in your futures trading program, active trader. For example, here's the active trader, and I can turn on the DOM here, which it's a little scrunched up, so you're not really seeing it. Let me see if I turn off the prices. There you go. So here's the ES. I just happen to have a lot of studies on this particular setup here, so it's a little busy on the screen, but there's the ES, and over on the right is a place for the DOM, and you can use ladder trades and etc., etc. I think if I turn this on, yeah, target with bracket. So there you can see the chain that gets created for you to place an OCO type of a trade, and link your trades so that if it hits the stop, it cancels the long order. If it hits the long, it cancels the stop order. So hopefully not explaining things that you guys already know. I should probably just keep it to feeling like you guys already understand all this, right? In fact, why don't we just take a brief survey in the room here, and for those that are following along with the show, you can let me know on a scale of 1 to 5 whether you have been using ThinkOrSwim for a long period of time and you feel comfortable with it, and you've pretty much know all the ins and outs. You can give me a 5. If you're just starting out and you're still finding your way around the platform, then you can do a 1 and give me a sense of how complex or how simple I should make the explanation. Okay, so I appreciate the comments, guys. I got a nice little comment from one of the members here about the privacy, and actually I do have it set to privacy, so that's why my account number at the top has asterisks in between. It happens to show my username, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But as far as the other information, you won't see my account number on the screen, at least. Okay, so thanks for the feedback, guys. I see some of the commentary we have, and yeah, I know some people that actually do maintain their account because they do like the charting system. It happens to be a pretty useful charting system. Alright, so there is that. Now, I was mentioning these different sections. So we have the Trade tab, then there's the Analyze tab. Here's a place where you can view a risk profile, and we'll take a look at this on another show and see how the risk profiles can be viewed. For example, I'll just throw a stock in here, and you can see here's a profile for a particular trade that is down below, which are either trades that I have, or they might be trades that are simulated trades that I have put on. You've got a built-in scanner, of course. What platform would be useful without a scanner? And you also have the Market Watch, and this has a built-in calendar of earnings. You can take a look at the earnings for, let's say, the month, and all of these blue notebooks, it's hard to tell that that's what they are, but in the upper left-hand corner I have the earnings checked off, and we can check off dividends, and that should populate based on what we saw at the other website. And so here's a page here. So here's Monday. Let's go to Tuesday's today, and we have a X7 here. So that means that there's 7 stocks with their earnings, and we can click on that, and then down below they show up. So let me just expand this a little bit, and you can see I've got dividends and earnings. Let me turn off the dividends for a moment, and then you can just see the ones that have the earnings. So we already know about FedEx that came out earlier, and what also is on the screen is the fact that these are either before the market, not specified, or after the market. So after the market we had S&T and CEDU. We can then click on the 19th, tomorrow, and see who we have before market. If I click this heading here, it'll resort the column by the before and after market. Otherwise it was alphabetized by the stock symbol. And so here you have MFRI, NSSC, CBRL, GIS before the market tomorrow, GU, IHS, AZO. I saw some plays on O'Reilly today, so that could be interesting, and PTI. So anyway, full-fledged calendar. And what's nice, I can tell from the live stream that you can see the calendar dates that are showing up. Actually, I happen to have this on the screen with a low contrast, and I'm not even seeing that, but you guys have it on your screen side. You're seeing it that way. And that's where these little dividend and earnings boxes are getting thrown right into those particular dates on the calendar. So this is kind of handy. I looked at the month. You could do the week. You can even do it as a list and get a full-blown list starting with the which should be today. Looks like a couple of dribbles from yesterday, so perhaps the whole week is showing up here, and then on into the future. So that's the Market Watch tab. It has a lot of other sections here. We talked about the heat map on FinViz on another episode, and actually this is a nice heat map as well. And here on the left side you have watch lists, so you can actually not only do a heat map of, let's say, the S&P 500, which you might be most familiar with when you see the heat map on FinViz, for example, but you also have a way of doing a heat map on your own personal watch list. So for example, so here's my watch list, which has a lot of the stocks that we've been talking about on the show, and others that I've just added over time. Some of them are pretty miscellaneous, and some of them are pretty detailed. What I'm going to do is see if I can just expand this, and hopefully you guys can see this heat map a little bit better. So here it was nice enough to break it down by manufacturing, and it's put Apple under manufacturing, which is always nice to see. Then your services sector and your retail trade, so you've got McDonald's listed under retail trade. And as you notice, as I move my mouse around and hover on these different stocks, it's giving me their last price and then their percent change. So during the trading day, you can bring up your heat map and see if you've got your own personal watch list and you want to know amongst the stocks you're looking at for the week, let's say, you can see on the heat map whether any of them are active or inactive in relation to the others. And so for example, I'm looking at this and I see Yoku with a little activity, a change of almost 3% today. So you can actually click on that. It brings up a little sub-menu, and you can throw it into a trade grid to look at later, and you can even trade on it right from here if that's what you wanted to do. So I'll take a look at market depth, and that's not really bringing anything up on my screen. There's the trade grid. So this is basically the level 2 pricing, and you've got your bid and ask. So that's kind of interesting to take a peek at, and you can get back to the rest of the chart here. Here's a small green square. I don't see what it is, but it hover on it and it tells you it's FFIV. So if we did the trade grid on that, we can see what's going on. And then here's something I like that's happening, is that it's building this trade grid with the previous stocks. So we can click back to Yoku if we wanted to, because I didn't minimize. I don't think I closed this. I think I might have minimized it. So let's see if I click on Juniper here, go to trade grid, and there it comes back. So now I've got 3 here to take a look at. So it's kind of a useful tool, one of many. And one of the things I like about ThinkOrSwim is that so much of it is integrated from one section to the other. So when you are on something here like the heat map and you click on trade grid, I happen to know what trade grid is from one of the other sections. So I kind of knew what to expect when I clicked on it. Same thing here. I'm getting a way of populating my charts, as well as here's company news, And what I'm suspecting is happening is that some of this might be getting populated in, yeah, this is what I thought. Over here, if I expand this section here that I don't use too much, there's your market depth, which I had originally clicked on, and there's Yoku. And what I'm going to do, let's pop this out and see what we're getting here, the information here. So it looks like you're getting, for the market depth, you're getting all the different exchanges and some of the other clearinghouses that are out there, and they're showing you the bid, the ask, and the sizes, the bid sizes and the ask sizes. So obviously with the market being closed, this kind of information isn't really telling you a whole lot, but if the market were open, then it might give you some indication of where the trades are flowing from and bid sizes and et cetera, et cetera. So that gets in a little bit more about trading than maybe you're using on a daily basis, but it could be of interest. Let me just take a moment and take a look at some of the comments we have here, see if any of them are some questions. Okay. Yeah, it looks like just some commentary about the market in general, so I'll let you guys continue to go at it. Now, another part I like here on the Market Watch section is the alerts, and you'll see that I have several set up down here below. This is a place where you can put alerts on, for example, the high tick alerts that you hear from Johnny on the daytradingradio.com. During the day, you might hear the high tick alerts or low tick alerts, extreme high tick alerts. I'll show you how to set that up here in ThinkOrSwim, and then you can hear them as they get triggered. And if you happen to have a delay on your feed from the let's say a wireless connection, or you're on your phone, or for whatever reason you're getting it late off the live stream server, you can at least have it on your own computer pretty quickly. So we could talk about that another time. Charts, of course, is pretty much a standard for anyone with a charting application like ThinkOrSwim. So that's obviously a very powerful part of the program. And then you've got tools, which have to do with some other services that have kind of been what's the word I'm looking for? Inserted into ThinkOrSwim over the years. So, for example, Ameritrade is a third-party service that basically is what you get from StockTwits, if you guys are familiar with StockTwits. It's a way for you to create friends with other traders, and then you can follow those other traders and you can see what trades they're doing, and maybe you can build your trades off of that. So, for example, here's a trader buying, looks like 20 SSYSs at 58.90. I got to click trade details because it's not telling me what they are, and I guess it's just the straight up stock he bought. But if somebody did calls or puts, they'd give you that as well. And then once you click on it, it's kind of nice. You get the little risk plot, which gets shown here. Let's see, trade video, which is looks like a little commercial from the company, and then links for you to share that elsewhere. So that's just how that works. Come back here to the ThinkShare dashboard, and you've got trades on the left, ideas on the right. And again, just another news source. So if we happen to use, let's say, Dolby Systems as an example, this is one from last week's, I believe, HPS list, then you can use this to see what other trades people are putting on. And here we see some vertical spreads, some bullish vertical spreads, and then you have some people buying some puts, some March puts, and also some commentary over here from some of the posters to the service. So again, just another tool built into the system, And when you're in the chat room here, you've got other traders that are giving feedback, which is awesome. And this is just another source that you can use to see what's going on. You've got CNBC, and this is some past episodes and portions of the show. I haven't found this to be a complete listing of CNBC, so I don't know what the story is with that. But that reminds me of another website that I could share out with you guys on another time for CNBC. And then the widget 360, which gives you kind of another pattern to see where the calls and puts are going on a particular trade. So if we looked at DLB, for example, it looks a little quiet. And if we bring up Apple, then you're going to get a much more busier pattern of the open interest for calls and puts and the volume trading and around the strike price. So here you have all of this volume right around the 690 strike price, it looks like. And let me see if I can, yeah, if I click on these, they're not really interactive, but this is just another tool in here that we can explore another time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at charts, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the chart out. So for example, on a lot of these sections of the software, you're going to notice in the corner here, in the upper right corner, is this little square over a square, and this represents a pop-out feature. So let me expand this back, and I'm going to pop that out, and you'll see what it does. See, it opens another window of exactly what we were looking at. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reset this whole screen back to a single chart, and then we'll minimize the one behind it. And let me just reposition this a little bit so you guys can see what we're doing, and I hope that this comes through okay. And let me also delete all studies, make sure we're working on a fresh platform here. So one thing you can do is create a grid system of different stocks that you want to look at. Now on my platform, I have a couple of breadth indicators that I take a look at, and so I'm going to show you that in a grid of 2x3 or 6 stocks, and you'll see what's happened after I picked from here and I held it over till I got the 2x3 that I wanted, and I clicked on it and it already filled it out for me. So you can use this to match your monitor size. If you happen to have a wide screen and you want to do multiple stocks in that direction, then there you go. There you have it. And you can look at those individual stocks. What you have to keep in mind is that all of these windows here are going to be pulling data feed. So if you're going to populate them all with different stocks, then they're going to be pulling individual data feeds from the server, and you have to consider how that impacts your computer system. So that's just a personal thing you guys have to know on your own system. And I see I have a little Skype request coming in, so we appreciate that. And looks like Kumar. So Kumar, if you want to just, you can chat me in the Skype or in the member room and let me know if you would like to call in and talk about anything we're covering here. That would be fine with me. Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna update something here. Okay. Put that back to minimize. So continuing on, we've got a window of 6. So here's what I'm going to show you. Now first of all, these all have drop downs, And when you click on the drop down, you have your complete list of all of the stocks that are out there. And here's part of that list here. You've also got recent positions, futures, options, indices, indicators, FX, personal. And so that's all here. And if you don't know the name of the symbol, you can go to lookup and type it out. So if we type Dolby, for example, and I don't think I was supposed to hit the enter key, we hit Dolby, and I have the number 10 over here, so it's going to give me the top 10 companies with the name Dolby in the description. And so we're just getting one here, DLB for Dolby Labs, and when I click on it, it gets populated into the screen. So that's a useful tool. So let me just check back to Skype. Kumar, I don't know if you're still looking to call in or not, or you're just reaching out so we can stay in touch. That's perfectly fine. So we're talking about breadth indicators. So I'll show you what I have set up here. One is these, some of these indicators have dollar signs in front of them. So we came back here to all, for example. You'll see these are all built-in dollar sign components. So I'm going to do dollar sign UVol. And another interesting thing is that as I'm typing it, it starts to match with the built-in ones. Now I'm going to stop at the L in UVol, and what it's populated it with are the default being the New York Stock Exchange advanced volume, the advancing stocks, and there's other symbols we can type. Looks like .RL will be the Russell 2000 advanced volume. You have .SP, which is the S&P 500 advanced volume. I'm not sure why they didn't put an ampersand in there, but okay. Then you've got all USA, NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones. So I'm using the New York Stock Exchange advanced volume. And then what I'm going to do is go into my studies screen, which is the third of these three buttons here. Okay. I'm going to left click that, and I'm going to pick Add Study. Now these are all the built-in studies in ThinkOrSwim. And you have all studies up at the top, and then you've got the more popular ones are in their own categories. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to pick Compare With, and I'm not going to pick one of the ones that are on the list. I'm going to pick Custom Symbol and click into the box, and my secondary symbol is going to be the down volume. Now what that does is give me two comparative bars. The one here with the candlesticks, which is my default setting for my charts, is candlesticks. So that's going to show up the up volume, and the down volume is going to be represented by this purple line. And as this gets drawn out, then you'll be able to see what's happening with the market. So for example, I'm going to change my what they call an aggregation period. I need to actually go into this option here, this first of the three buttons. This is chart settings. So I'm going to change my time here from simply the 1 minute. We're going to go to intraday, 2 days, 1 minute. And what that'll do is if I scroll back, we can see how pretty much the whole day the decliners were well above the advancers here. But I'll show you what happens when you get to a crossing here. And I think we're getting back into, let's see if I can bring you back here. So here's when the market opened, and you can't consider that a crossing per se, but let's go back to yesterday, and nothing special there, and the day before. Okay, so the 14th, which was Friday, obviously a nice run there after the run up on Thursday and then the continuation. So the advancers well ahead of the decliners. but then you get to Monday morning with the low volume, and it pretty much smacked it right down on top of one another, and then spent the rest of the day pretty much staying far away until you get to today, where you had a couple of attempts at bringing them together. But anyway, this is just a breadth indicator. I don't mean to be spending a lot of time explaining so much detail. But that's the NYSE. On the right side here, just for comparative sake, is the up volume, and I'm going to do a /Q, which will give me the NASDAQ advanced volume. And I'm going to, and I thought I had reset all the studies, so bear with me here as I delete all studies. I may have to do this to all of them here. Give me 1 second. Delete, delete, and delete. And getting back to this one, we're going to go into studies. We're going to do add study, compare with, custom symbol, and we'll use the down volume on the NASDAQ. So here you have a lot more overlay than you did with the NYSE, right? So there's how that works. So continuing with the breadth indicators, we have down here the comparison of the advancers. Now top here is the volume, so down here is the advanced decline, advanced issues. We're going to compare that with the declining issues, DECN. Just want to make sure I was going to use the right one. And then same thing over here, ADVN/Q for the NASDAQ, and then we're going to add, compare with, custom symbol, and it's going to be DECN/Q, and that gives you again your NYSE and your NASDAQ. And then down here we're going to use this as a place for our trends. The only difference is I'm going to change my time frame to 2 days and then 15 minutes. And over on this right side, I'll use the trend with a /Q for the NASDAQ and pick 2 days, 15 minutes. So there you've got just a handful of breadth indicators as an example that you can use. Now, just taking a look at the chat room, I see that we had some commentary about using the subtraction feature, and that's true. You can do that. So let's take a look at that for an example. I'm going to just expand this out so I get another section here, and I'll probably got to delete the study so it doesn't get corrupted. But instead of comparing the two as we did, let's say you did $UVOL minus $DVOL. Now instead of giving me two separate lines that I can look at and see converging or diverging, instead it's representing the difference between the two in individual candles. So you can kind of tell the difference over here with just simply the math. So over here we have 2 million for the volume, which is tied into the up volume, and on the right is this minus 177,579 minus 1 million. So that's telling you the same thing, that the declining volume is higher than the up volume, since we have a negative number. So if I just double click that heading there, it expands it so we can see the entire chart here. And you know, it's the same information represented in a different way. And I'm not going to say either one is right or wrong, because it's what works for you, right? As a trader, you need to understand what you're using, and you need to know what the information's given you. So if that's how you want to represent it, then that's fine. Now, Kumar, while I have a little bit of a pause and before I show the next thing here, did you want to call into the show and point something out? I know you said next time. I didn't know if next time was tonight or another night. You let me know. If not, I'll leave it to you. You go ahead and call in if you'd like to talk. If not, I'll just go on to the next feature. So I'm going to move this back to the original 6. And then I'm going to point out something to you. So now we have this breadth indicators set up in a grid of 6. Obviously, you can then resize the window itself any way you'd like. And I happen to have this set up with no studies are on here, as you can tell. It's just those 6 were added. Technically, these purple lines are studies because I added the secondary study to these charts. But now let's say I want to make sure I have this in the future. So how do I do that? Well, that will be up here under the grids. Now, below the section where you get to pick how many grids cells that you want in your grid, there's a couple of sections here about what you can show, and then down below is an option for save grid as. And down here is all the different ones that I happen to have saved, but here's save grid as. So you click on that and give it a moment. And I don't know if I just locked up my machine or what just happened because it took a second. Alright, enter grid name. So here you can enter a name. I'm going to use breadth 2 and I'm going to hit save. And so now that's in there. So why is that useful? Well, let's say we reset this back to the 1 cell and there's nothing in here. And obviously if I go ahead and throw in the $Uval, I've got my default studies are back. I can delete them again and that's great, but then I'm only left with the original stock. I've got to now add that study in for the down volume, etc., etc. And then I've got the other 5 to set up as well, right? Well, you can come into here with the grids and come down to the names of the grids. So we'll go down here to breadth-2, click on that. I get a little confirmation window. It came up in my other monitor, and it warns you that you're going to be affecting everything that's going on with this window here. And are you sure you want to do that? So we're going to say yes, and there you have it. The 6 windows are loading. The studies that I have set them with have loaded, and not only that, you see that the time frames have also carried over. So I had 1 minute set up on the top 4 grid cells and 15 minutes set up on the lower 2 grid cells. So everything that I had set up in those 6 cells got preserved when I saved it. Now, why is that useful? Well, obviously if you had this all the time and you exit your ThinkOrSwim platform, then the next time you load your ThinkOrSwim platform and you log in, this will be on the screen, right? So what's the big deal? Well, what's interesting about ThinkOrSwim is that all of these grids, grid setups that you've saved down here, they get stored on the server side, on the ThinkOrSwim server side. So if you, for whatever reason, need to reload your computer, or you buy another computer, or you log into a second computer somewhere, maybe you go over your in-laws' house and you want to log in and check something on the market, the beauty is that the stuff is saved on the server side. So as long as you're logging in with the same username, all that stuff will get pulled down and you'll get to still access it from there. So those are just kind of some handy things that you can make use of. And then what you can do is just take these 6 grids and you can shrink them down to as small as you need it to be and stick it in some portion of your of your monitors, and it'll take up some space over there, and you'll be able to take a peek at what's going on. Now the other thing is you can throw some alerts on some of these, and then they'll get triggered as time goes by. And we could talk about setting up alerts as well. If we don't get to it tonight, we could talk about that another time. So that's one breadth indicator. Now I'll take a second to show you another type of grid layout that is useful. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to just reset all these. So we're back to 1 again. And delete all studies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do 12 grids. So that's a 3x4. No, 4x3. Let's do 4x3. So give that a second to populate. And this is a way of just setting up some of the futures that are going on. So I usually have like gold on the screen, and I just happen to put the ES in one spot. I also have let's see, I think it's not HC. I'm trying to remember what it is for copper. I gotta use the lookup because I think they changed it on me. It'd be helpful if I can type, and maybe if I got rid of the slash mark. There we go. So HG, that's the problem. Typing HC like a dummy. HG is the one you want for copper. Maybe I'll put T-bills. Maybe have the SPX on the screen. You could put, for example, crude oil, and then maybe have the spiders and the QQQs, etc., etc. These are just giving you some examples, and then I might have a couple of stocks that I'm keeping an eye on. Let's say you got Dolby Labs, and let's say you put, since Yahoo is in the news. So there you have it. There's a grid of 12, and besides having a few futures on the screen, I have a few stocks on the screen as well. So you can mix it up any way you'd like. Now you notice when I typed in the futures, for example, the ES over here. Give me 1 second because it's populating the wrong thing. So if I can make sure I'm clicking on the right section here. Stop doing that, please. Yeah, I realize what it is I don't have the screen maximized. Okay, so I'll explain to you what I was doing in a second. So here's the ES, and what you can do is I use ES without the month symbol. If you do that, then what happens is ThinkOrSwim will make use of the particular contract that they've rolled over. So you got to watch that when the rollover date comes. Sometimes your broker will roll over the contract on the same date as the exchange does. In this case, it was on Thursday, I believe, last week. Sometimes it'll be a day or two later. So if you want to reference the particular future contract, then you need to include the additional information. So for example, here's the September 2012 contract versus the December 2012 contract. Okay, now a whole bunch of my studies are on these, and that's why it's showing up the way it is. Let me put on the crunch this up a little bit so you can see what the ES is doing. Now another thing that's useful for using the ES is, I'll show you, for example, let's say we drew a trend line. Okay, now in ThinkOrSwim there's several ways to access the chart drawings, and down here in the lower left corner is a way of turning the crosshair on and off and zooming in and out. And then there's a little hand option here to activate the tool that you're on. So for example, we pick trend line, and we can left click from the one, and then left click for the second one. Now I happen to have drawn this line, and I have it set in my options to snap the ends to the open, high, low, or close of the candle that I'm pointing at. So you'll have to set yours that way if you want it to snap, or turn that off if you don't. And now that I've drawn this in, I'm going to show you that if I go over and look at the September contract, and I put UZ, let's do U2. So here's the September contract, and that trend line is not here. Or I can look at the contract without putting the name of the future, just using the word ES, or the symbol ES, and you'll notice the trend line is not there. So what happens is, to ThinkOrSwim, the Z contract is its own entity. So if you draw the trend line on the Z contract, you have to bring up the Z contract in the future in order to see that trend line. However, if you instead use the ES as you're referencing, then let's say you were, and let me just confirm, I'm looking at a 2-day chart, so let's change this to a let me see what we have. I'll tell you what, let's do a daily chart for a year. Okay, and then you can see here I've got some other studies that I've added over time. So here's a Fibonacci study, for example. And I happen to have drawn this back in July, and I ended the length of it. It doesn't, I think I ended the length of it. Oh, I know why. It's not on the screen because it's so low on the screen. Alright, so let's just draw a trend line. I'm just going to draw an arbitrary trend line. And by the way, I'm doing this without explaining it. So besides using the button down here to choose trend line, you can also just have your mouse right where you want it to be and right click, and that'll bring up a submenu. And from here I can pick add single drawing and then choose the drawing. So we're going to do a trend line, and I'll go from here out to this high candle here, top of the candle. Okay, so there's the trend line. And now let's go back to picking intraday, 2-day, and a 1-minute chart. And now I'm not sure a 2-day was the right way to go on this. Let's see. Where that trend line might have been. I should have checked out the date that line was going to, right? There it is. Okay, so here is back on the 14th, and it's actually passing through this candle and going out to another candle from when I drew it. But the point is that even though I started that line back on, let's see, if I hover on it for a second, it'll give me the information on the line. It started at May 1st and ends on 9/15. So May 1st was a different contract that we were trading, and it was probably might have been the June contract back then. So what I'm trying to get at is, if you go ahead and use the ES as your reference contract for your trend lines and your studies, then even though the contracts are rolling over and ThinkOrSwim will handle that on their end, the chart will stay up to date with the studies that you have. And then that way, when the trading day is going along and all of a sudden there's this trend line and you wonder where it came from, you can actually be looking at trend lines that go back to some previous contracts that might have come into play in a particular trade. I know that some other software has ways of backfilling the data, and you need to run some processes to make that happen, and that's all fine and dandy, but that doesn't, that's just giving you an extra work to have to do. So, all right, so that's how that works. Now, let me show you something else about the charts here. And that is that when I went and changed my scaling here and put it back to auto scale, what ThinkOrSwim is doing is keeping not only my candles within the window, but my studies are also being kept within the window. So watch as I am going back in time, and you see the top green line and the lower red line changes, so it just shifted down. So that's nice that it's doing that, and I have that as an option here to fit studies. But you can actually turn that off if you want, and now it'll keep it within the chart itself, or the candles themselves, okay, and move and expand just to that, in which case your studies may actually go off the screen. So it depends on what you want to have for your setup, what you like to see. And in this case, when it moves away like this and it's a little scrunched up like this, sometimes you want to expand it. So there's two ways to do that. At the bottom of the screen is your time intervals. And if you notice, my mouse here moves from being a hand, which was my panning option, it changes to an arrow that points left to right. So if I hold down my left mouse button and I move my mouse to the left, I can stretch out the time scale, and therefore fitting basically less time in the window. It's the same effect as using the zoom option. See? But what I like about using this is it's a smoother expansion and contraction, and I can control it more. If I use the buttons here, it's kind of a stutter step and doesn't give me everything in between. So that's something that is on just about every trading platform that's out there, so it's not just ThinkOrSwim. The second way of changing the scaling is with the price on the right side. So you'll notice the hand also moved from a hand to an up and down arrow over here. So by doing that, you can stretch out the pricing. And once you start messing with the pricing, now you can pan up and down. Okay? So if I go back to this button here and pick auto scale, and I'm on the pan mode, I can go left and right, but I can't go up and down. It's having no effect. But once I get it off of the auto scale, I can now move it up and down. And I can be able to fit it in the screen however way I want to. So those are just a couple of tricks there of what you can do. So what I was telling you before about double clicking on the heading, I'll explain that to you now. So here's the 12 cells that we set up earlier, and I happen to have the window kind of resized for purposes of the video here, and hopefully to make the information show up on the screen resolution a little bit nicer. Up here you'll see the grid menu is showing that there are 12 cells. Okay. Now what you can do is you can zoom in to any one of these cells. So how do you do that? From the option here, yeah, that's not how you do it. I hope I didn't just delete all those cells. Of course I did. Alright, so let's just bring that back up again. And I'm trying to remember which one it was. And no, it's not this one. Alright. Let's go back to this one. Alright. This one has 9, but it's going to have the same story. So what you have to do is take a look at each one of these windows, or grids, cells I should say, as its own piece of information. So you notice we have the place to type, the stock symbol, and then you've got your menu choices here, and somewhere in between is this little bar area where it's describing the issue, in this case the ES mini futures. If you double click that, then it'll basically maximize that window to your full window, but it keeps the other 11 windows, or in this case 8 windows. And if you notice up here in the top, there's a little grid there, and it put a little red box in the particular cell that we're looking at, because we're basically looking at the second row, third column of our grid, right? And if I double click this again, it brings it back to the full view of all 9 cells. What you can do is use this as a way to zoom in, look at a particular stock, and then now you have these left and right arrows here next to the grid cell, and you can use this to move around the squares. And it basically moves from the top left, and if I go to the right, it moves across the row, down to the second row, across the row, down to the last row, until it scrolls back around again to the first one. So I'll show you in a little bit how you can set this up for one particular stock with multiple time frames, and then use this as a way to zoom in and compare the different time frames if you don't want to look at it all on one monitor, for example. Okay? So you can either double click the heading here, or you can click this little back arrow to get back to the previous screen. So those are just a couple of things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh my water. I'll put on a couple songs and leave you guys with the ES. And like I said, if anybody wants to call into the show, they can reach me on Skype at Mr. Enticon if you want to ask any questions, or you can ask them in the chat room. I'll be happy to bring those out to you. And if not, we'll just get onto them at another time. So I'll be back in just a bit. Okay, welcome back to daytradingradio.com. This is Briguy's Tools of the Trade. And I'm taking a look at some of the comments we have in the room here. The question came up about using a customized column in the watch list in ThinkOrSwim in order to take a look at the average volume for the day versus the past volume. Now, I had posted into the room a reference to our member forum where Trade for Pay, for example, had posted a couple of formulas that could be used. And I'm not going to share out those formulas because the show here is being broadcast live, and I think that's something that we should keep to our members here. And of course, you're welcome to sign up for a 2-week free trial, and then you'll be able to see what's in the forum and be able to check that out. But getting back to this discussion here, so we were talking about how to show the average volume. Now, Tomahawk, I'm showing you the column that I just created from the formula that you posted in the room, and I was just asking the question about the numbers. So it's the far right column, and let's say, for example, if we look at the ES and I've got a 4.0 in that column, then are we saying that today's volume is 4 times greater than the last 50 days based on the formula? I see RJ giving some great advice about how to do an overlay, but that's in a different platform. It sounds like E-Trade. And maybe we can explore that on another show and see if we can compare that over to ThinkOrSwim. I don't know if you've already done that, RJ. Is that something unique to E-Trade, that overlay you're discussing? could even get you on a show if you'd like in the future, and you could show the E-Trade. But anyway, asking you guys again, looking at this number here, and Tomahawk's telling me no, it's not 4 times. So what does the 4.0 represent? That's kind of what I'm like to just start with the basics here. We've got this column, we've got a formula that I plugged in. There is a way to customize these columns with your own formula. And let's see, Tommy's giving me a link here, which is taking me to, looks like your columns, and your, let's see if I notice where ES is. Okay, so here's ES, and you've got 1, 1454.25. Now you put T for P average as your heading. Is there any chance that that's different from what you posted in the room? Because alright, you know what, Tommy, I can do that. Yeah, I'll share that out. Let me just see if I resize it a little bit, and we'll put that there and put that there. Does that come up okay? Alright, the reason I ask, because the formula that you post in the room doesn't look like the formula that was in Tommy's, or I should say Joel's post. And the reason is because you had volume and he had volume average. So here's what I'm going to do. For purposes of the show here, I'll show you how to do this and do my best not to share out the column. Alright, so if you right click on any of these column headings, there's an option here that says customize. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to take custom 1, I'm going to remove that. Okay, then I'm going to scroll down. You have, looks like, about 19 different customized columns that you can do. It's possible to do more than I assume, but let's not get ridiculous, right? Alright, so I'm going to pick custom 2. I'm going to pick add the item. It automatically brings me to a custom formula section here. Alright, there's a condition wizard, which I can walk through some drop down sections here. There's a section down here about add condition, and then there's ThinkScript editor, where you can actually type in the code itself. So I'm just going to bring this off screen for a minute. I'm going to go to the member forum. I'll post that in the room again to you guys so you see what the where I'm getting this from. And I'm going to take, he's got a couple of formulas in here. I'm going to take one of them, and I'm simply going to delete the formula that's in there now under ThinkScript editor. I'm going to paste in the new formula. The software validates it for a moment. There's no problem, so I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm taken back to this previous screen, and there's my custom 2 as my new column. So let's hit OK to that. And now that's getting populated. And OK, so now let me see if I resize some of these here a little bit. There's bid and ask, and custom 2, I guess, is as expanded as it wants to be. So now I've got 0.05 on my ES, and that's not what you had there, Tomahawk. Your ES was, now I'm trying to see if my screen can update here on my laptop, and hopefully I zoomed in enough. See, Apple's at like 90 something, but the ES is Not on the screen. Alright, Tommy, you're telling me the script came right off the watch list. But your ES, and my problem is I'm using a monitor with a crappy brightness factor. So let me use my other monitor here. Yeah, your ES had 1. Mine has 0.052. Any chance yours has changed to 0.052? Yeah, I see what you're putting there, but I'm going to paste what was in the Joel's formula there, and it looks a little different than what you have. And Fusion's seeing the same one. And Tommy, if I use the one that you just gave me, let me just bring this off the screen for a second. I just put that under custom 1. And that'll be the second column here. So the formula that you just gave me now, I'm looking at it as, for the ES, I've got 5.0. And you had, for the ES, 1.0. So maybe you can help me out. Tommy, oh Tommy. Is it possible that you can go into your formula there and right click on it and just copy it and make sure that I'm not losing something? I don't know, maybe you already did that. But maybe if you pasted the formula right off your watch list. Now, another thing is I'm using ES, and you're also using ES, so that can't be it. Alright. It's a mystery. So I'm up to 6.0. Can you look at your screen? You know, the image share aside, can you look at your screen and see what your ThinkOrSwim is displaying for that formula? I've got a 6.0 on my screen. Maybe you can let me know if yours has changed to 6.0. Anyway, it's a great feature, as you can take your watch list and not just have the individual symbols and the typical last and bid ask information, but you can also plug in this volume reference here. I haven't been using that, but I know that back in May, actually, Joel had posted these scripts in the room here for the users, and if you haven't already taken advantage of the member forum, I suggest that you do so. I'll tell you what, let's try to figure out how to share this without messing up my windows too much. Okay, so here's the member forum, for example, and what you'll see here is a list of actually I meant to come back to here. You have platforms, software tips and tricks, and there's a whole section there on the various platforms. I'm just going to post this in the room here so you guys will see. Great. Now I'm going to be cutting that out of the screen, out of the scene. Anyway, I got to make a mental note. Give me 1 second here. At 146. So if you hear a little skip jump, I just got to do a little editing on the video. Anyway, so back to the forum here. So you see there's all the different platforms so far that we've made a list of, and there's some here which haven't had any comments. So if you're a user of these platforms and you'd like to share out some information, you can do so. Obviously, we've had the most postings to the ThinkOrSwim section, and without clicking on it, I'll just point out to you that it was down here under columns for ThinkOrSwim watch lists, where back in May, like I said, Joel posted some of the codes for ThinkOrSwim watch list columns that you guys can make use of and populate your watch list. But what I'm going to have to do is a little homework on that to see how the volume is calculated and what's making those columns different from what you're seeing on your end, Tommy. Maybe you have a much more advanced version of ThinkOrSwim than I do. And I can tell by the outrageous laughter that you guys are definitely agreeing with me. Insert sarcasm here. So, Warbucks, I did see you come into the room there. Nice to see you here, and glad that we do have some more ThinkOrSwim users in the room. What I'm going to do here is I'm just really going to open it up to you guys if you've got any questions that you wanted to ask about the platform or about any of the trades that we had going on. Then we could talk about that. At the end of last week's show, we actually spent a little time looking at some trade setups, and we can do that as well. Hey, Dyla, good to see you. Interesting that RJ and Dyla show up in the room at the same time. What's that all about? Anyway, so what we can do is instead of trying to cram in the rest of this information in the end of the show here, we can, like I said, open it up to our members, or if there's anybody out there in the interweb that has my Skype ID and they want to give a buzz, they can certainly do that. And just take a pause here for a moment. And I'm just going to throw a link up on the screen temporarily for anyone who's a non-member and watching the video, if they would like to sign up for that 2-week trial. And of course now I'm realizing I just shared all this out here because I am on a different screen. Okay. This is what happens when you switch things around on yourself. So let's put this back over here. And I'll try not to drive you guys too crazy. So anyway, got that link shared out for anyone who's interested in signing up for a 2-week trial. You can click that link there. If you're watching this on YouTube at a later time, then the link is probably not going to be clickable. So just type that into your browser. Okay. So we do have a question in the room from one of our members asking about TradeStation versus ThinkOrSwim and whether we have any comparisons between the two. Frost, I have to tell you, I was actually interested in getting someone on the show who uses TradeStation. I've been trying to do my best not to involve getting into platforms that no one's using. But my question is that the members, if you're using one of the platforms, I'd love to have you on one of our shows. We can share out your screen, or I can set up a demo and you can look at my screen, whatever works, and we can use it as a way to explore some of the setups of the software. TradeStation is something that I know our member Gas uses quite a bit, and in his case he uses it for a lot of the automated trading. Now ThinkOrSwim on its own doesn't have automated trading, but they are partnered with a company that has a software called Prodigio, and within Prodigio you have the tools to create automated trading and triggers, and it's kind of interesting. Tyler, are you referring to Prodigio, or are you talking about TradeStation? Okay, so getting some comments in the room about their use of ThinkOrSwim and in regards to trade executions, and seems to be a little disagreement about whether or not they're getting, I don't know if you're talking about accurate trades, or if you're just talking about execution. I don't know for sure, but I have used in the past a software called Lightspeed, and I believe it's similar to the software that Short Trader uses, another platform that I'll be having on an upcoming show. But the point is that I did notice that there was a much quicker, let's say the level 2 quotes seemed to be a lot quicker in the Lightspeed platform versus ThinkOrSwim. Almost a fraction of time faster. And I think some of that might be in regards to the way the licensing is set up with ThinkOrSwim. I don't know that it's a true tie-in directly to the market. I think there is a half a beat basically behind the market. Don't quote me on that. I'm not putting that out there as being a full representation of ThinkOrSwim, but I agree with you. It is a little on the hesitation side. But your experience about not being able to make trades, I don't know what that's about. I can tell you that they have made some changes over the years. Obviously, we have some comments coming in about the fact that TD Ameritrade bought ThinkOrSwim, and they're right about that. And there was a period of time when they were maintaining the accounts for ThinkOrSwim separate from the Ameritrade accounts, but they eventually merged that together. And another thing I experienced was that there were some tweaks they did on their system side that you didn't get access to some of the features within the software. You might remember in our first episode here on Briguy's Tools of the Trade, we did a review of not Quote Tracker. Now I'm drawing a blank on the name of the software. I'll have to bring up my menu. Strategy Desk. Okay, an old tool from TD Ameritrade, Strategy Desk. And the thing is that if you are using ThinkOrSwim to trade futures, they have to put you into another system which allows you to combine your funds between your futures account and your regular trading account. When they do that, they move you into another system and away from the system that made the Strategy Desk work, so your login wouldn't work anymore. So in my case, I had to use a different account in order to get access back into Strategy Desk, and that's fine. But getting stuck out of trades, like I said, that could be an issue with what system that you're logged into, and not necessarily with their normal modus operandi, as it were. But Darla, I'm sorry that you had that experience. You know what? I don't make any money off of TD Ameritrade, so if you're using your other platform, I know you have an IB account, and I hope it's okay that I'm saying that over the air. I don't think it's a big secret. If it is, let me know. I'll delete it from the recording for the future. But the IB software is a very nice system as well. So, and I think just from the dialogue that I see going on in the member room, it really goes to show that this is why we have a myriad of tools out there to choose from, because different people are comfortable with different tools. And if you're comfortable using ThinkOrSwim and you've been using it for a long time, you probably are completely in love with it. If you have run into a problem with a software and it didn't get fixed fast enough, or it cost you money, let's say, on a trade that you couldn't get into or a trade you couldn't get out of, then I'd be willing to bet that you're always going to hate that software. And even if you went to use it again, you'll never feel that it's giving you the right feedback. So that being said, I think that's why we do see a lot of different software packages that are out there. Now, somebody made a question earlier about Prodigio, and they said that it wasn't around anymore. I still get emails from them. Now, Frost, Prodigio is spelled with an O. I think someone later in the room posted the actual spelling. What I can do is take a second to bring it up on my Google search here. It's ProdigioRTS.com. This is the name of the site. I'll post it in the room for you. I haven't used it, so I can't really speak too much on it. I did watch some of the seminars and the webinars for it, and it really sounds interesting. And because it's tied in with ThinkOrSwim, I believe that I could... Well, I signed up for an account with them, and let me look at my main ThinkOrSwim page. I believe it is no longer showing itself to be yeah, part of my tools. I used to have it on the screen, and it's not there now, so I may have to call them up. And alright, so Mad Hatter's saying it's not supported by TOS anymore. Okay. So is it a standalone product then? I mean, looking at their website, it's you know, it looks like a whole another broker here. Anyway, that's just another piece of software out there. Trying to follow some of the comments in the room, and you guys are having a nice dialogue there. I don't mean to interrupt. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves, as it were. And Tommy, I did get your other messages here in the other room. I'm going to take a look at that again a little bit later, but thanks for following up on that. Dyla's making a valid point about platforms crashing. I have to say that, though, platforms crashing, I mean, that can happen amongst any of the software platforms. And there was definitely a period of time when ThinkOrSwim did a pretty crappy job at their customer service. They were doing a lot of changes. Like I said, they were combining the ThinkOrSwim account members over to their TD Ameritrade account members. They were updating the software. They would do those updates over the weekend, which was fantastic. But when you don't have any trade data to deal with, you don't see the impact on the software and whether or not it holds up to the updates. And there were definitely plenty of times when the software would be down for hours or maybe even the entire day. And yeah, it's true, like someone said, you can call them up and complain about it, and they'll figure out a way to try to make it right, maybe by giving you some free trades or something else. Be nice if we get them to lower the commissions, right? But definitely, if you're in the middle of a trading opportunity, you're going to be in trouble. But really, that's an argument. If you're a professional trader, I have to say that it's one of the reasons why you probably don't have one brokerage account. I mean, myself, I've got a way to get into my Ameritrade account. It doesn't have to be through ThinkOrSwim. I could load up the Ameritrade webpage and get access to Trade Architect, which is their web-based software. I could load up my phone and get access to the mobile trader and trade from that, and that at least gets me access to that money. I could also make a phone call and I've done this, if the platform is down, you can call them up and place your trades that way. It doesn't really help you for scalping if you're trying to get in and out of trades, but by all means, make a phone call and call them back. There is certain phone numbers you can get. I don't have them in front of me, but instead of going through all the prompts, you can go right to a live person and give them your account info and then place your orders. When you're doing that, you can get them to waive the broker fee for placing the order with a operator, obviously if their system is down. So from that standpoint, it's a great setup. But at the same time, I've got money in other accounts. So if I have an issue with my TD Ameritrade account, I can jump on another account and it won't stop me from trading for the day. Not to mention, you can wire the money out of your account and bring it somewhere else if you have to. Another thing interesting, by the way, when you get your Ameritrade account set up and you've been using it for a period of time, I don't remember exactly the names of the settings, but you can eventually get it to where you're doing free wires out of the account, so that could be handy. And like Warbuck said, ThinkOrSwim, I think he's agreeing with me, so I'm not the only one noticing it, is that the software seemed to have been pretty stable now. Their updates have been a little less intrusive, I think, and yeah, there definitely was an ugly period there last year, but I think it's been a lot better in recent times. Fly on the wall, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Now, we had a question come in here from Big Bad Bear about how to set up the high tick alert in ThinkOrSwim. And I noticed somebody had given the comment there. I'll be happy to demonstrate how to do that since we're really at the end of our show anyway. We can, I could stay on here and show you how to do that. So I'm going to bring up my main screen, and I'm going to go to my Market Watch alerts. I'll show you that over here on the live stream. So here's Market Watch tab and the alerts sub menu, and here they are. And down below here I have my high tick alerts. I'm just going to click on it, and if I pick Compose Alert, it actually populates it with the same information. that is in the alert itself. So it's based on the tick symbol, and we have it set, I have it set for at or above the half mark, 0.50. And that's it. You can set your sounds, notify with sound. The send here is for if you're getting email alerts, it'll send you these particular columns. You don't need to use that if you don't want to. And I also have it set for the reverse crossover on silent. Now that's a very nice feature to have, because what that will do is once the alert gets triggered, in other words, once your tick goes above the 0.5 mark, then the alert is done and it goes away. But if you want, you can re-trigger the alert by picking this reverse crossover option. Normally it's set to off. So you can set it to be a regular alert for the crossover, so it drops below 0.5 and it'll go off again. Or you can put it for silent. So let's talk about what that means. What it means is once the alert goes off, so it's above 0.5, and it drops below 0.5, do you want it to announce high tick alert again? Probably not. So that's why it's a silent alert on the crossover. So when it crosses back below it, the alert gets triggered again, but it doesn't tell you anything. It's quiet, it's silent. And when it goes below it again, it then creates another alert again, going back above, at or above 0.50. And in this case, it's now back to being a regular alert. So that's how that works. So every time it goes above the 0.5, it'll give the alert. If it happens to drop down to 0.49 for a half a second and then back to 0.5 again, it'll go off again. That's why you may notice from Johnny's alerts that you'll get more than one high tick alert at the same time. Okay, so that's how you do that. That's the high tick alert. Then I've got under here's the low tick alert. So I'm going to right click on that, and as long as my computer is reacting, I must have clicked on one too many things because it's slowing down for a second. And I hope I'm not giving away trade secrets. This is kind of standard fare. Alright, compose alert. So this is, let's see, I think I'm on the same one. Let's go to low, at or above 0. You know what? I think this has never been silenced. I think it got triggered and it hasn't been silenced, because that should be below 0.5 for the low tick alert. Let me see what my sound effect is. Yeah, this is the low tick alert sound effect. I'm going to have to look at this because it hasn't triggered in a while. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's change that to, can't do at or below because it'll conflict with the high tick alert. And have it submit now. Create. And then that will go into effect hopefully tomorrow. And the last one I have is the extreme high tick alert, which again I haven't heard in a while. So let me see where I have that. Here's the high tick alert, low tick alert. Got an alert on the tick queue. I might have lost my extreme high tick alert for some reason. So I'll have to take a look at that. These other alerts are going off with no problem. Alright. This one's at extreme high for the 0.5. And I heard the thing beeping along, so yeah, no problem, bud. Orion, no problem. Alright, let's say we're doing this from scratch. So let's do, we put the tick in there, and I'm going to right click on the let's just left click on the last. So here's the alert, and the study is a 1-minute study, so that's what we want. And we're going to do at or above. At or above 1,000. Alright, so we've had it at 0.5. And the sound is going to be extreme high tick alert.
Extreme high tick alert.
Alright, so that works fine. There's stock. Alright, I'm going to cancel this because we already have it here. I'm going to take a look at this when the market's open and see what's going on, because I haven't adjusted these, but then again I haven't really heard them going off too much lately. So I don't know if the market happened to move while I was away from the computer, which is probably the case. But that's how that worked. Alright, so I see some other comments in the room. It doesn't seem like any of them are directed specifically at me. There's a question about the tick strike. That's kind of what the $ tick symbol is. That's the NYSE tick. You can put a /Q after that and get the NASDAQ tick chart and set up your alerts based on those. So either way. And then you can use either the built-in alerts, or we had talked about this once before. In fact, this is a nice little tool to have. Let me see where it is. I'll put this in the member room to check out for our members. And this is a site that lets you type any phrase you want, and you can choose different voice languages. And I'm going to put a little phrase, for example, and I'm going to have it read it off.
High tickle Thursday.
Okay, so I got high tickle Thursday off of that one. So sometimes what you have to do is, depending on the voice, you may have to make adjustments. Let's try using a British voice. Where's our UK stuff here?
High tick alert Thursday.
Okay, nice and steady there.
High tick alert Thursday.
Yeesh. That's a rough one. And there's even an Indian one.
High tick alert Thursday.
Okay. So,
High tick alert Thursday.
they seem to have changed this a little bit because it sounds a little different than the last one. But what I'm going to tell you is you can add little commas, for example, into the text. It'll give it a pause.
High tick alert Thursday.
That was maybe too much of a pause. So let's see if I put a space in, if it makes a difference.
High tick alert Thursday.
Not really. Alright. Let's drop Thursday.
High tick alert.
Okay. I'm gonna,
High tick alert.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I spell hi, H-I-G-H, or H-I, it's still giving me the same response. Let's try if I use all caps.
Hi Tick Alert.
Doesn't make a difference. So, let's see, special characters you can use, and I think that's about it.
Hi Tick Alert.
It definitely sounds a little strange, but when you record these, you can
Hi Tick Alert.
play around with the voices, and you can play around with the
Hi Tick Alert.
with the commas in there, or periods, in order to get the phrase to come out the way you want it to. So those are just some ideas. Alright, I'm going to throw some tunes on, and I'll put the ES back up for a little bit, and I'll be on for just a little while. Again, if you guys have any questions that you want to take a look at while I'm here, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll carry some things over and bring it out on the next show. But in the meantime, we'll throw some tunage on for the show here, and of course I'll have to wipe these out later. But I'll get the show trimmed down and posted up in the forum, so anybody who missed the show can take a look at it, or if you want to bring it back from the beginning, you can do that as well. Alright, so this is Briguy at daytradingradio.com, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Looking forward to tomorrow. The market opens at 9:30. Johnny should be on by 9. And of course we have members pulling in even in the wee hours of the morning, but generally things get kicked off about 8 a.m. And please feel free to say hi in the room if you're one of our new members. Don't be shy. Ask questions. There's a lot of traders that are really giving and willing to help out and scare you into not trading for a living. No, just kidding. It certainly is a great thing to do, and it's a way to make money. As long as you put forth the effort and the work into it, then you'll benefit from it. So feel free to ask questions in the room. Check out our members forum and the member blogs, and ask any questions you have in the room there as well. In the forum as well. And if you have any questions that you want to send to the station, you can address them at dtrs@daytradingradio.com. And if you have any questions for me in particular, you can either reach out to me in a private message in the forum, or you can email me, brian@briguytrading.com, and I'll be sure to get back to you. So let's just play a few tunes before we take off, and I hope you guys have a great night. Take care.